Good to see everybody. So, good win for us. Thought we played well for 4 quarters. Did some good things situationally. Obviously, the front affected the game, and the back end had their part in that too, as far as some of the coverage structures that we played, some of the rules that we had up for the game. Executed well. And I think you saw a lot of players win their one-on-ones, and kudos to the offense because we got up in that game. And when you're playing with a lead like that, you can do some different things that makes it hard for an offense. So I thought the coaches and players did a good job executing, and on to Jacksonville.
Fletcher's admitted that last year wasn't his best season. How did you and the coaching staff know that he was going to be able to bounce back and have the type of impact he's having?
I mean, because he cares. I mean, he's another guy, like, what I talk about Slay. Fletcher's the same way, and that's why he wears a C on his chest. He ultimately wants to do everything that he can do to help our team win. And he knows he's an impact player for us, and he wants to be put in positions that he can impact the game. And I think what you see from Fletch right now is he's playing at a really high level in the run and pass game. And he understands the value of how we align him and deploy him to train wreck the game, which is what he did.
What have you thought about the last 3 weeks of the way that Avonte Maddox has played within the slot, and how has he basically impacted this defense?
Excellent. I mean, you guys heard me talk about that. I don't know when, but if you have to protect the nickel, that spot a lot, it's hard, and we don't have to protect Avonte. He can play all the coverages that we asked him to play. We put him in a lot of tough down situations with not a lot of help, and he can win one-on-one. And then what he does, as far as with communication with the back end, the coverage adjustments, being in the run game, blitzing, playing zone, playing man, it's a luxury to have, and you need that spot in this defense to play at a high level, and he's playing at a high level.
JJ, what do you see from Kaiser and TJ? Not just their playmaking, but the way they haven't played together before, but just the way they communicate, the way they complement each other, and what they're doing.
Yeah, I think Nick's done a good job with those guys. That's part of the reason we cross-train all those guys to play different spots with different people. I think what you're seeing right now is they fully understand where they need to be, why calls are called, what's those calls, where they fit into those calls, what plays they can, certain routes or certain runs they can be, very aggressive, certain times they can't. And then what I'm really pleased about those guys is they're tackling at a high level right now. They're taking good angles, they're tackling, they're physical. When we need them to get downhill, they're downhill. When they can't be downhill, they're not. So, I look forward to them. They got a lot to work on, just like everybody, and look forward to their progression as we keep going.
Murray and Epps and CJ have played 100% of the snaps the last 2 weeks. What goes into determining how many snaps they play? Is that kind of preordained going into a game, or is that just how the game evolves?
A little bit of both. Good question. That's like all our guys when we set it up. Hey, who's playing in these packages? Who's coming out in certain calls? But I think those two are doing an excellent job. You saw Kayvon. He comes in a little bit in certain packages, and he's doing a good job. And they know their role, and I know that they want to keep improving, both of those guys. But those are two huge pieces to have with their, their skill set, both of those guys, what it allows you to do with some of the coverage structures. So happy where they're at, and I think you're going to continue to see those guys ascend.
As a follow-up to Rube's question, and to an extent Ed's question, you spent this time last year rotating linebackers, presumably trying to find two that would stay on the field. What made you settle, or I guess decide that you had two this year that would stay on the field?
Yeah, I think it's a couple reasons for it. TJ, when he came in and was, he took over the green dot and ended up starting, whenever he did, middle of last year. Production goes into that. He makes a lot of plays and he's playing good football for us. And, the same thing with Kazir when he came here. he's played different spots before, but just the fit of those two playing where they're at right now, I think they complement each other. They're in I think they're prime time spots for what we ask those guys to do, and hopefully it accentuates their skill set a little bit, because those two positions are similar, but they are different with some of the things that we do. So I'm happy where they're at. I'm happy where the other guys behind them are at, because we're going to need those guys at some point. And they're ready to step in and play, but I like where TJ and Kazir are at.
That was Jordan's best game so far?
I thought he played well. He's man, like, I don't think a lot of people see it, but there's a weekly improvement from him. And what Tracy is asking him to do and improve, he's improving, and we see that. And he's going to continue to maximize his opportunities, and that's a good room. I mean, we got 5 guys up on game day, and they all play. You guys see that. And when you can do that, it keeps guys fresh, puts guys in their ideal spots where they're most comfortable, and you see some production from that. It's funny, we come off and we're talking about the next series, here's what we're going to do or whatever, and I got one guy tell me, hey, JG, get to this, and then I got another guy tell me, hey, JG, get to this, because they see how they fit into the scheme and how they can really affect the game. Sometimes it's the same, sometimes it's a little bit different. You can't make everybody happy, but that whole room, they know their role, and that's what we talk about with those guys. Be a star within your role, and when you get other opportunities, that's not your baby, to maximize those opportunities as well, and that's what they're doing.
Back to the linebackers, obviously Nakobe hasn't played the last 2 games and everything, and, for obvious reasons, but how much is watching, Kaiser and TJ, how much is that helping them? I mean, do you kind of get a sense of it?
Yeah, the guy's a sponge. You should go into their meeting room. I mean, I think Nakobe talks more than Nick. Just soaking up things like he asked. It was funny. He asked Kazir a question the other day. I happened to be in there. He says, Kazir, that was your gap, but how did you know to go to that gap? And Kazir says, well, I just feel it. And Nakobe was like, wow, that's pretty cool, So I think that he's learning from those two guys. Kazir is a vet, and TJ's played a lot of ball for us. Kazir's played a lot of ball, and Nakobe, we see every week he continues to get better as well. With the on a practice field, and he's going to get his chance, and he'll be ready to go.
John, what is it about this Jacksonville offense that looks improved since Doug Peterson has become head coach?
Yeah, this is a good offense. I mean, I got a very high opinion of Doug. He's a very good play caller. He doesn't have a lot of tendencies. You can't bank on certain things coming. And, he's doing a good job, I think, with the quarterbacks playing extremely fast. He has weapons. They protect them. You have to be aware of their skill guys, because their skill guys have very significant skill sets. And we have to, it's just like everybody, like, you got to know your opponent, because they do some things with those guys that he allows those guys to play free, and he puts them in good spots, and they make a lot of plays. So we got a big time test ahead of us.
You mentioned winning a lot of one-on-ones up front, JG. I'm curious, does that change things for you when you see that happening in game? When you see your guys are winning up front?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it kind of goes to your question, John. Last week, there's some things that we had up that we didn't need. And I'm not talking about just pressures or coverages. When the game's going how it's going, again, we have really smart players, and they can adapt as the game goes. And we had a couple things up that the players were like, we don't need that right now, or let's keep rolling with this because we're doing a good job with it. And perfect, I'm not out there playing, they are. So I thought, that you can, when the D-line's affecting the game the way they were, you can devote more into coverage, and it makes it hard for the quarterback. So, again, the players and coaches did a good job of executing and winning at a high level. And again, you guys saw the production stand out, and I know everyone sees that stand out from the box score, but that's why, wasn't really sweating the production in the first couple games, because I knew that at some point, if they keep winning at a high level and doing what they're coached to do, that will come. And that's honestly, that didn't surprise me how that game played out.
You mentioned that Doug doesn't really have tendencies. When you're trying to game plan for someone like Doug, who doesn't show his tendencies, can be very aggressive, and you'd imagine is extra motivated for this game, what's the hardest part about trying to scheme to defend against that?
Yeah, we play what we play. I mean, it's just you got to be in the right spot and play with good technique and have your eyes disciplined versus this team. And, it always comes down to out-executing your opponent and playing the way we want to play. And, I always say, to our defense, don't get it twisted. The game's about hitting on defense. So I've thought we've been a pretty good physical unit. We want to still keep working at that, but you don't want leaky yardage. You want to affect the quarterback. You want to hit people when you can hit them legally, and have a lot of people at the ball. So that's what we'll preach to our guys. Good question.
You said before you were in the linebacker room when Jacoby said that thing. How do you decide which rooms to pop into? Is there like a schedule, or is it you just sort of feel it out?
I feel it out a little bit, but I know where the hot spots for certain days are, and that's kind of where I bounce around. But that's the one thing you miss being a coordinator is the connection with your room of a position group, developing your guys. And those guys, we got great coaches that have, we talk about player football character, but I talk about coach football character too. Like their number one job is serve the players, and those guys have a very good rapport with their players because, one, the players know that they care about them, and two, they know that they can improve them. So anything that comes out of those coaches' mouths, those guys are listening to that, and they take it to heart because they know that it comes from a good place, and we're just trying to improve our players. So I like to bounce around different rooms to hear certain things going on and make sure things are clean, but I fully trust the coaches, and it's more for me just to touch base with every room.
What's standing out about Trevor Lawrence? What kind of maturation are you seeing on tape?
He's playing fast. We looked at some games last year, and he might not have played as fast. I don't really know why, but I think that he's processing at a high level. He's very accurate. He's got a big arm. He's athletic. He's tall. He can see. And, that's why I always see, like, when you watch the tape of certain quarterbacks play real fast, he's one of those guys. And so, like I said, we got to be on it.
In the press conference before week one, you said that you wanted to see the team take the ball away more this year and affect the quarterback more this year. Is what you've seen the past 2 weeks what you had in mind when you envisioned this defense?
Yeah, and any good defense does those two things, so you want to be able to do that, and you want to be able to do that different ways, depending on who you're playing. And, I think the players know that we put up, we don't put up a lot of stats, that we're through and through what the head coach preaches because we know those are winning stats, and how the defense fits into those things we talk about ad nauseum. So I think that they understand that, and they go out, and that's on their mind. And they know that they have to get that done for us to have a chance to win each game. So happy where that's at, but know that that's not that's a week-to-week thing, and we have to continually improve on those things.
Just to clarify, those stats are turnovers and explosive plays?
Correct. Yeah, that's the double positive the head coach talks about. So you're talking about taking the ball away and limiting explosives. And that there's a whole formula that's over my head, but I know those are two winning stats. So, all right, guys. Thank you.